My name is Claire, and today I welcome you back to an extra episode of our Wellbeing in Education podcast series from Suffolk. This episode leads on from the previous one, so that was Season 2, Episode 3, where we heard all about a non-violent resistance programme, so that's NVR, that supported emotional wellbeing across the school community. In this podcast, we hear from Carina Embeita, one of the practitioners who spoke in the last podcast. And this time we are looking at feedback from families, from parents who've been part of the MVR intervention, the MVR programme, and they're basically feeding back on key elements of the intervention that they found particularly transformational. And in some cases, we've heard that being part of the MVR programme has really helped to save their placements from breaking down.
MVR is, as we know, stands for Nonviolent Resistance, and it was originally created for parents and carers, although the applications that it has now vary, and it can be used in many settings and with many systems, for example, schools. But MVR is for situations in which there is violence or aggressive behavior in the children, in the family, or shown by the children, and also sometimes controlling behavior or withdrawn behavior. For example, a refusal to go to school or withdrawal from family activities, or sometimes also self-harm and suicide threats. So it's not only for aggression, violence, and controlling behavior. It is particularly for parents and carers who can commit to change and can commit to attending a certain number of sessions. It's not a quick fix solution. It requires some work from parents. They want change, they are committed to change, and they're committed to doing the work for the change. It is a therapeutic intervention, and by that we mean that it's not a parenting course in the sense that it is a training delivery where we could just, inform parents or produce information or uh, share content with the parents. It's much more than that. It is delivered either in groups or in individual therapeutic sessions, and we work together for a number of months, and new ways of working together, but also new ways of doing things at home that might help the situation. There's sometimes a confusion as to what advice to follow and who to listen to. I think a lot of times when I meet parents for the first time, they have lost their capacity to trust their own instincts or their own sense of agency, and sometimes that takes a long time to develop. That's why we are saying it's not a course that you can deliver.
Speaking with families about what they particularly valued about MVR, they've mentioned the baskets, or the use of the baskets, to help them prioritise behaviours that they would like to focus on in the first instance.
Talk about the first part of what you mentioned, the baskets, is identifying and prioritizing what behaviors you are really going to put all your energy in resisting according to MBR principles, resisting nonviolent, resisting without humiliating your child. Of course, you wouldn't have done that before, but learning to de-escalate is a big part of that as well. But what you mentioned about the baskets is often parents understandably want to do everything together at one time. They want to solve or address all the difficulties, all the behaviors that are unhelpful, that are harmful. And a lot of the parents tell me that the baskets gives them clarity, and it's like a relief. Think, okay, we can do one thing at a time.
Another element that has been really useful and reported back to us is the role of supporters. And a vital element of this is that the child or young person is aware of that, so it's fully transparent. The child knows that you are talking with supporters and planning ways forward together. And another element of having the supporters kind of links to self-esteem. And one of the parents was telling Karina and I, basically, it's a really fine balance between, and that you kind of work out through the MVR process of not wanting to affect a child's self-esteem, but by kind of like involving other people and them knowing you're going to involve other people, i.e. the supporters. But a really key point here is that it's really important that young people understand certain behaviours are not appropriate. And the kind of the thing that really landed with me is about helping children to understand that if anyone is ever violent towards them, then it's really important that they would need to go and talk to someone about this.
Having supporters and telling supporters what's going on and the difficulties at home doesn't mean that you have to shout from the rooftops to everyone and sundry, what's going on. That is, you choose very carefully who your supporters will be. And there are supporters who the parent trust. They have a sense of trust in those supporters, that person will extend their parental presence, because that's the role of the supporter. Extend their parental presence to resist the violence, but also to support the child. One of the most important things a parent can do with any child, but especially with child who presents with these behaviors, is to help them, to support them and to nurture them, but also to support them, to help them to develop a sense of accountability and responsibility for the impact that their actions have. And extending that parental presence into other adults is an essential part of that in MBR, not only for the child, but so that the parent feels supported as well. Often ask me, if I get support from such and such person in our circle of friends, or from her school or his school, won't that damage their relationship? Won't that damage the child's relationship with that person? And what I say, no, if it's done well, because it's not about punishing, it's about stating and conveying a very clear message of, this is not acceptable. I always say with de-escalation, it's not just de-escalating, it's also planning what action you're going to take the day after or that evening. Because if you de-escalate everything without any action, that can also leave you feeling that you are giving in, that you are always the one calming down the situation and not really acting on it later for resisting. So you are de-escalating, but you are also resisting. You are going to trigger resisting actions, and that includes triggering the network of support to emphasize the meaning of, this is not acceptable. Violence is not acceptable in any relationship, and we are going to resist this. We are here to support you. We love you. Another aspect of it is also going back to the topic of shame. Reconciliation gestures and connecting gestures were very important, because at the same time you are resisting and you are de-escalating, but you are resisting, you are reconciling all the time. Work first on your sense of yourself, of your values, as what type of parent you want to be. Then we work on the escalation. And then when the parent starts de-escalating, they recover a sense of self-control.
So families have shared how they feel when they've been part of an MVR program or intervention, and they've shared also how they feel when they're hurt by their child. So this part of the podcast shows some quotes and some feedback directly from parents who've taken part in the program. So it's been like being abused in your own home. Everyone's giving you advice around what to do without understanding the complex situation you've been in. MVR has given techniques. Joining the groups has been a lifesaver for some parents. It's really helped them to regain self-control and know they have support. As previously mentioned, the NVR intervention or the NVR program gives time for parents to think about what parent they want to be, because in their context, parenting has become traumatic and exhausting. It really reinforces the message that you love your child, but this behaviour has to stop. That families really want to reinforce that they're there for their children. They still appreciate them, they still love them. However, they want to be in a situation where they're not scared of their children anymore. There have been real examples where there's been a power struggle in the home, and MVR has really helped to reset the balance. And also, the therapeutic support that comes as part of the programme has been massively important. Building parental presence and learning to de-escalate and resist certain behaviours and then plan next steps has also been hugely appreciated by the families that have been part of this programme. We also asked families what they would say to other parents who perhaps had heard about the MVR programme and were wondering whether it would be of benefit to them. And there was sort of almost like some top tips. And this was about reading around. So read around the information that is shared, read as widely as you can, see what other families are saying. This can be through perhaps online support or being able to ask questions initially. There is a recognition that MVR does take time and that you need to attend all of the sessions. You will have, need time to reflect, and this could be with the therapist or practitioner, as well as like your own reflection or reflection time perhaps with your supporter. It's really helpful to get someone that you can work with on an ongoing basis. And I suppose there really is an element that you're working on yourself and you're trying to work out what kind of parent you want to be. Obviously, with that support group that's around you, so the support from the NVR practitioners, supporters, and if you're in a group, a support group. And from talking with families, I was left really with the distinct impression that MVR has helped many families avoiding perhaps the breakdown or the breaking down of their placements or the family situation for them, and that really it's a very impactful programme. And I thank the families who have shared their information with us, how they felt with us, and also thank Carina for being part of this podcast today. And that just leaves me to say goodbye and thank you for listening.